I have seen every kind of beauty in the world, beauty that costs millions to preserve, beauty that fades beneath lights, beauty that hides behind perfect smiles. But then, I saw you. And everything I thought I knew about desire, about grace, about what pulls a man towards something real, it all changed. You don't even know the storm you started in me. I've stood in boardrooms where the fate of companies worth billions was decided with a signature. I've negotiated with men who'd sell their souls for an extra zero in their bank accounts. I've dined in cities where the skyline bends beneath my name. Yet, nothing, absolutely nothing, compares to the way my heart reacts when you walk into a room. It's strange, isn't it? How someone like me, with everything, can be completely undone by someone who doesn't even realize the power they hold. I could buy every diamond that exists, and still, none of them would shine the way your eyes do when you laugh. I could build another empire from scratch, and it would still feel incomplete without your voice echoing somewhere in the background. You see, I don't want you because you're another trophy to show off. I want you because you're the only person who makes me forget that I'm supposed to be powerful. Around you, I feel like a man again, not a billionaire, not a name in the news, not a story whispered in social circles. Just a man who wants to love, deeply and quietly. There's something sacred in the way you move, something unintentional yet magnetic. It's not your beauty that pulls me, though you are breathtaking, it's the way you exist, unbothered, pure, as if the world hasn't yet managed to ruin you. I watch you sometimes, from a distance. Not because I want to invade your space, but because I don't want to break what's real between us by rushing. You remind me of peace, and I've spent a lifetime chasing everything but that. You have no idea how many times I've wanted to tell you. How many drafts of messages I've deleted before I could even hit send. How many times I've stood outside your favorite cafe, just to see you smile once before I disappeared back into my world of deals and deadlines. Everyone around me asks why I haven't settled down. They think I'm waiting for someone glamorous, someone famous, someone who looks good on magazine covers. But the truth is simpler, I've been waiting for you. And when I finally tell you the reason why I want only you, I know you'll blush. Because it's not about what you've done, it's about who you are. Do you know what I noticed first? Not your eyes. Not your hair. Not your laugh. It was the way you cared about people, quietly, genuinely. You help others even when no one's watching. You apologize even when it isn't your fault. You forgive too easily, and you love without fear. That's what made me fall. I've been surrounded by people who calculate every move, every word, every compliment. But you? You don't try. You just are. That's why you disarm me. That's why I can't look away. Every time I see you, I remember the boy I used to be, the one who dreamed of love before success, who wanted to be understood before being admired. You make me feel human again. Sometimes I wonder if you know that when I talk to you, I memorize everything. The tilt of your head, the way your hands move when you explain something, the little pauses when you're lost in thought. I remember every detail like I'm storing pieces of you inside me, afraid that one day I might lose them. I've dated models, actresses, heiresses, women whose names fill tabloids. But none of them could make me forget about work. You do. You make me late to meetings, distracted during conferences, quiet during parties. Because even when I'm surrounded by hundreds, my mind is searching for you. You see, love doesn't choose logic. It doesn't care about money, class, or distance. It simply knows. And my heart, this heart that's been locked behind iron and glass, recognized you before my mind could. I know you'll blush when I say this, but you've already changed me. Before you, I thought love was a weakness. Now, I realize it's the only thing that ever made me strong. Every time I hear your name, my heartbeat slows, not from fear, but from peace. It's as if my soul recognizes that it's found its home. You might think I'm being dramatic, that maybe I'm just another rich man chasing something he can't have. But I promise, this isn't infatuation. It's clarity. You see, when you've had everything, wealth, status, comfort, and still feel a hollow ache inside, you begin to understand that life isn't about having more. It's about finding the one person who makes you feel enough. And you, my love, are my enough. That's the reason. That's why I want you and only you. You make me want to live differently. You make me want to wake up early just to see the sunrise, because it reminds me of your light. You make me want to slow down, to listen, to feel. You make me want to be better, not for the world, but for you. I've built empires, but what I want to build with you is a life. A real one. With laughter echoing through rooms, late-night talks, small fights that end with kisses, and dreams that don't cost a cent but mean everything. And if I could, I'd give you the universe, but I know you'd only ask for the moonlight. So I'll start there. I'll give you the kind of love that feels safe. The kind that doesn't need words to be understood. The kind that stays, even when the world changes. Because that's what you deserve. And maybe one day, when you're ready, I'll tell you the whole story, the exact moment I fell for you, the reason behind every glance, every silence, every choice I've made since. Until then, just know this, you're the only thing money can't buy, and the only thing I'd give it all up for. I still remember the day I decided I couldn't just watch you from afar anymore. It was raining that morning, the kind of gentle rain that smells like new beginnings. You were standing outside that small cafe you love, your umbrella tilted awkwardly as you laughed at something the barista said. You had no idea that across the street, in a black car with tinted windows, a man who could buy the whole building sat quietly, just to watch you smile. That man was me. I had a meeting that morning, investors waiting, decisions worth millions pending. But for the first time, I canceled everything. I couldn't leave. Something about that moment felt divine, like the universe had finally whispered, "Go now, she's ready." I stepped out of the car, no umbrella, no plan. Just the kind of courage that only love gives. You looked up when I approached, a little surprised, a little curious. I still remember the way your eyes softened when I said your name for the first time. You asked, "Do I know you?" And I smiled, because you didn't. Not yet. But somehow, I felt like I'd known you forever. We sat down inside the cafe, you with your favorite drink, me pretending to look calm. I could have told you right then who I was, but I didn't. I wanted you to see me, not my name, not my wealth. Just me. You spoke about ordinary things, the weather, your day, your dreams. And I listened like a man who'd just discovered the sound of peace. Every word you said made me fall deeper. When you talked about how you believe love should feel like home, not fireworks, I almost told you everything right there. Because that's exactly what I wanted to be for you, a home. Days turned into weeks. We started meeting more often, by coincidence, at first, then by choice. I told you small pieces of my truth, but never the whole story. I wanted to see if your heart could love me without the shine of what I owned. And you did. You loved the way I listened. The way I cared. The way I looked at you like you were the only person in a crowded world. You once said, "You have the kind of eyes that look like they've seen everything but still choose to see the good." You didn't know how much that meant. Because no one had ever seen me before, they'd only seen what I could give them. One night, I drove you to the edge of the city. We parked by the sea, the wind whispering secrets across the water. You leaned against the car, your hair dancing in the breeze, your face glowing under the streetlight. I told you there was something I needed to confess. You looked at me, nervous, curious, your eyes asking what your lips didn't. And I said, "I'm not who you think I am." You didn't flinch. You just waited. "I've hidden something from you," I continued. Not because I wanted to lie, but because I wanted to know if you'd still look at me the same. You tilted your head, a soft smile playing on your lips. "And will I?" "I hope so," I said. "Because I don't just want you to know me, I want you to choose me." You stayed silent, letting me speak. "I'm the man behind Haverstone Holdings," I said finally. "The company you once said changed the skyline of this city. I'm that billionaire they talk about, the one you think lives in another world. But that world feels empty without you in it." You were quiet for a moment, your breath visible in the cold air. Then you laughed softly, not mocking, just amazed. "You're joking, right?" I shook my head. "I wish I was. Because being a billionaire means I have everything, except the one thing I truly want." You looked away, your hands trembling slightly. "Why me? You could have anyone." "Why, me?" That was the question I'd waited to answer. The reason that would make you blush. "Because," I said, stepping closer, "you're the only person who ever looked at me like I was enough." You blinked, your lips parting slightly. "I've met people who wanted my money, my name, my attention. But you wanted my heart without even asking for it. You made me feel human again. You don't know what that means to someone who's been treated like a brand his entire life." You lowered your gaze, the color rising in your cheeks. I could see it, that soft flush that told me you finally understood. I took your hand then, gently, reverently. "When I say I want you and only you," I whispered, "it's not a line. It's the truth that's been echoing inside me for months. You're the calm after the chaos. The reason I want to put down my phone, skip meetings, walk barefoot on grass again. You're everything I didn't know I was missing." You looked up at me, tears forming, and said, "You don't have to say all this just because you're lonely." I smiled. "No. I'm saying this because for the first time, I'm alive." The sea roared in the distance, the world suddenly too quiet for how loud my heart was beating. You stepped closer, close enough that I could see the raindrops glistening on your eyelashes. And then you whispered, "You make it sound like I changed your life." "You did," I said simply. "You made me believe love isn't something you buy. It's something you become." Your eyes shimmered, and your cheeks turned pink. You blushed, beautifully, deeply, shyly. That's when I knew I'd finally found home. He didn't stop there. Days after that confession, he began showing you small parts of his world. Not the glamorous side, not the jets, the parties, or the headlines. But the quiet parts, the side where he was just a man, with a heart that beat faster when you called his name. He introduced you to his mother, a kind woman who hugged you and whispered, "He hasn't smiled like this in years." He took you to his private garden, acres of roses and lilies. But your favorite spot became the one with no flowers, just grass and sunlight. He laughed when you said, "This is the most beautiful part," and promised to build a swing there just for you. Every morning, he'd send you a single message, "Good morning, my peace." And every night, before he slept, he'd whisper to himself, "She's the reason I survived another day without losing my soul." You became the only constant in his world of change. One evening, he came to you, no suits, no guards, no pretense, just himself. He held a small velvet box in his hand, but he didn't open it. "I don't want to rush this," he said softly. "I don't want you to fall for my world. I want you to fall for me." And you did. You loved him not because he was a billionaire, but because he was a man who finally learned to love without fear. And the world, with all its glitter, suddenly felt small compared to the vastness of what you shared. Weeks passed like whispers of eternity. The world outside kept spinning, deals were made, stocks rose and fell, the usual rhythm of chaos, but inside his heart, everything had slowed to a perfect stillness that only existed when you were near. He had changed. The man who once woke up to alarms and board meetings now woke up to your laughter echoing through his penthouse kitchen. You were standing there in one of his shirts, barefoot, making coffee while sunlight spilled across your face like gold. He stood at the doorway just watching you. No phone, no plans, no noise. Just the quiet miracle of your presence. "Why are you looking at me like that?" you asked, half laughing. "Because," he said softly, "you make everything I built feel like it was worth it." You smiled, still unaware of the storm about to come. Because love, true love, never comes without a test. The first whisper appeared online. A photo, blurry, stolen, of you and him holding hands near his car. Headlines followed within hours, "Billionaire seen with mystery woman, not from high society." Who is she? The unknown woman who stole a billionaire's heart. At first, you laughed it off. He did too. But the world never stays kind for long. People speculated, judged, invented stories. Some said you were after his money. Others said he was just playing a game. You stayed silent, but inside, your heart ached. He noticed. He came home one night to find you sitting on the balcony, staring into the dark city below. The wind carried the sound of your quiet sobs. He walked to you slowly, knelt beside you, and took your hands. "Look at me," he whispered. You did, eyes red from holding too much pain. "Do you remember the first day we met?" he asked. You nodded. "I didn't see a stranger that day. I saw the person I'd been waiting for. I knew you'd be tested because of me, and I hate that. But I promise you, no noise from the world can drown what I feel for you." You looked down. "I never asked for this attention. I just wanted you. And you have me," he said, voice trembling with emotion. "Completely." He reached into his pocket and handed you a folded letter. "What's this?" you asked. "Something I wrote the night I fell in love with you." You unfolded it with shaking hands. The handwriting was neat, strong, a reflection of him. It read, "If she ever doubts my love, remind her that I saw the world," and it was loud, but she walked in, and everything went quiet. Tears rolled down your face. He wiped them with his thumb and whispered, "Let them talk. Let them wonder. Because the only truth that matters is the one that lives here." He placed your hand on his chest, where his heartbeat raced beneath your palm. "That's yours. Always." You didn't need to say anything else. You just leaned into him, and for a moment, the whole world disappeared. Days later, he made a decision that stunned everyone. He walked into a press conference meant for business announcements, but instead of talking about stocks or partnerships, he spoke about you. Reporters went silent as he began, his voice steady but soft. "There's someone in my life," he said, "someone who didn't fall in love with my world, she fell in love with the man behind it. And I want the world to know that she's not just someone I'm with. She's the reason I remember who I am." Flashes from cameras filled the room. The world listened. He continued, "Money builds walls. Love breaks them. And for the first time in my life, I've stopped building." You watched it live from home, your heart pounding. When he said your name, when he spoke of you with pride and reverence, your eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they were the kind that heal. He didn't stop there. Later that evening, he took you to a small hill outside the city, the same spot where he'd first confessed who he truly was. A candlelit dinner waited beneath the stars, quiet and perfect. He didn't have his usual bodyguards, no cameras, no extravagance, just a single violinist in the distance playing softly, and the sound of crickets surrounding you. You sat together, hand in hand, as he said, "I used to think love was a distraction. Something that could cost me everything. But now I realize, it's the only thing that gives everything meaning." You looked at him, glowing in the candlelight. "You know," you whispered, "for a man who's built empires, you talk like a poet." He smiled, eyes glimmering. "Maybe I was waiting for a muse." You laughed, and in that laughter, the years of loneliness in his soul began to fade. A few months later, something even deeper happened. He took you back to the orphanage where he grew up. The building was old, the walls cracked, but the children ran around laughing, their joy untouched by poverty. He knelt down, handed one of the kids a toy, and said softly, "This was me once." You watched him, this man who once ruled skyscrapers, now sitting cross-legged on the floor with children, smiling like he finally belonged. He stood, walked over to you, and whispered, "You know why I want you and only you?" You shook your head. "Because when I'm with you, I remember this place, who I was before success, before pressure, before money changed everything." You don't see the billionaire. You see the boy who just wanted to love and be loved. You bring me back here, to the start. And that's the most beautiful gift anyone's ever given me. You felt your eyes sting. He cupped your face gently and said, "That's the reason. That's why you'll always be the one." And there it was again, that soft blush that painted your cheeks, the one he loved more than any diamond, more than any sunrise from his glass towers. As time passed, you became his peace, his balance, his anchor. He still ran his empire, but differently. Meetings began later. Dinners became simpler. He started funding scholarships for orphaned kids, not under his company's name, but under yours. When people asked why, he'd smile and say, "Because she taught me that love isn't real until it gives back." He'd leave you notes hidden in your books, your purse, even your pillow. Each one started with the same line, "If you ever wonder why I chose you, remember, you're the only one who made me choose life." Sometimes, late at night, he'd wake up just to watch you sleep, your hair spread across his chest, your breathing soft and steady. He'd whisper, "Thank you for finding me," and kiss your forehead before falling asleep again. And in the quiet dark, he'd dream not of profits or power, but of gardens, laughter, children, and the simple beauty of forever. 1 year later, standing beneath a canopy of fairy lights and roses, he finally asked you to marry him. But he didn't do it in grand style. No media, no spectacle. Just you, him, and the sound of the ocean, the same sea that had witnessed your first confession. He took your hand, his voice trembling with emotion. "I've spent my whole life collecting things that don't matter. But when I found you, I realized, I don't want possessions, I want moments. I don't want perfection, I want truth. I don't want the world, I want you." You tried to speak, but tears silenced you. He smiled through his own. "You once asked me why I chose you. I never gave you the full answer. It's because you loved me before you even knew who I was, and that's something no amount of money can ever buy." He knelt down, the ocean breeze tangling through your hair. "So this is me, not as a billionaire, not as a name, but as a man. Asking the only woman who ever saw his soul, will you spend the rest of your life with me?" You nodded, unable to form words. He slipped the ring on your finger, a simple gold band, nothing extravagant. "This," he said softly, "isn't about luxury. It's about promise." You threw your arms around him, laughing through tears. He held you close, whispering, "You're my reason, my beginning, my peace." And as the waves whispered against the shore, you finally understood, love had found its home. Years later, when people spoke of him, they didn't just talk about his wealth or success. They said, he changed after he met her. He became human again. And whenever anyone asked you what it felt like to be loved by a billionaire, you'd smile and say, "It doesn't feel like being loved by a billionaire. It feels like being loved by a man who finally found his heart." And if they ever asked what his reason was, why he wanted only you, you'd blush, just like you did that night by the sea, and whisper, "Because I made him feel like home."